So thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself. I am Beth Lindstrom, and I am running for U.S. Senate. I have not been a candidate before. This is my first time running for office. And people say, why are you running? And I say, because I believe we do need someone who's going to represent the people of Massachusetts and be an advocate for them in Washington, and especially someone who's a small business owner, who understands what it's like to sign in front of a paycheck and to understand how regulatory burdens affect their business and how important it is to keep money in the pockets of those who know how to run a business, and they make the decisions best on how to spend it. Now, a little bit about my background. I am a small business owner, but I'm a mom. I got 3 boys, and like I said, this is my first time running for office. But I have been around the political environment. I've been an activist, a community activist, statewide mostly, I would say, a community. But I ran Scott Brown's first race. But I've also had the opportunity to sit on Governor Romney's cabinet as Secretary of Consumer Affairs and Business Regulation. So I understand the balance between protecting consumers, because there are some bad actors out there, and making sure that businesses can thrive. So I have just a different view of government. I don't think government creates jobs, people do. I had a tour of a dealership, and the owner had said to me, here's the issue, Beth, going back to labor. I've got a vocational school right behind me. I could get these kids to come here and learn the trade in high school, but the regulatory environment says I can't put them under a car. So how do we train them in a dealership to fix? But I can't put them under a car if they're under a certain age. So again, just kind of maybe something happened a long time ago. Yes, we need to be careful, but now have we prevented an opportunity for a path for some kids where, you know, a bricks and mortar 4-year school may not be the right choice for them, and you know, now they can't do that because of that regulatory environment. The incentive to be able to say I could make more money. I mean, depending on how I act and my service that I gave, yeah, and we definitely weren't distracted by all the social feeds all the time. And I think it is a problem. I really do. So how do you get people focused back? But by saying, okay, we've got to take that away. We've got to focus on what's right in front.
Climate change is something that isn't going away anytime soon. We're dealing with that. Has been an issue on the South Shore and continues to be an issue on the South Shore. The National Flood Insurance Program expired in September of 2017. They've extended it a couple of times. They're in the process of extending it again because right now it's going to expire next week on July 31st. I think a bill passed the House yesterday. It's headed to the Senate to extend it out to November 30th to get it past the hurricane season. But what are your thoughts on that and addressing some of those issues?
Well, I think, yeah, flood insurance is a big deal, and being able to grandfather those who have already been in the program, but you have to, you know, insurance is a game of numbers, and depending on what data they're looking at, you have to make sure that you're using the correct data to be able to price it so that people can afford it, which is always the challenge. And it's just exorbitantly expensive, and that's the problem. To your question about climate change, I think we have to look at different solutions, and I know maybe this is more pertinent Boston, you know, I think UMass did a study about building a seawall, but there are some other things, and I think that's why we are really lucky in Massachusetts, because we have such educational institutions that you can have this innovation. Because I think that there's some other thoughts about, you know, different ways to help with different communities.
Do you think, as you're traveling around, do you think a lot of people are upset with the idea that she might run for president if she's
I think
senator?
that the answer I get most when talking about that is people say, are you kidding me? I'm telling you the truth. Because it's hard for me to say this, but it really is a visceral reaction. And it's hard to say because it really is about the personality versus, you know, the job that she's done, which, like I said, people do ask me, what has she done? So that's a hard thing. So the reaction I get first is, no, she's not really doing that, is she? But there's a lot of people who are like, you know, you got to be kidding me. So the difference I see also is when you run a race, You have your 11% Republican, you have your 34% Democrat, and then you have the big swath in the middle of unenrolled and independent. And what I'm seeing out there is I have a lot of people who are Democrats. It might be, you know, I call them the hard Ds versus a soft D. And when you have the hard D saying to you, Beth, I'm Democrat, but she's got to go. This is interesting, and you can't base your race on anecdotal information. But when you hear it, again, it's like things becoming statistically confident. When you hear it over and over again, like Scott was hearing from people, it becomes something that you have to pay attention to. And I know one of the reasons that I got into this race is because her negative started at 40%. And for a sitting U.S. Senator to start at 40%, that's big. And it's hovered like that for 2 to 3 years, 38, 40%. I'm pushing my opponents on debates because it's crickets right now. And the way I think primaries are good, they bring out the best in candidates, so the best candidate can go in the general. But we haven't heard too much on locking in dates from my opponents, so I'm pushing on that. I think that's really important. But for me as a candidate and base, and what do I need to do to get out the vote? First of all, we are raising money. We're on radio, so we're trying to be on radio. One of the opponents who's got a lot of money personally is spending money on ads. So I think our challenge is to get name recognition, get that out there first. But for me, it is about getting unenrolled independents out there. And we've got Republican voters too. It's not like we don't have Republican voters. So it's about getting name recognition, getting out there, and that's why we're doing a lot of earned media, getting out there every day, 24/7, trying to make news. My statement has been, I'll agree with them when it's right for the people of Massachusetts. I would disagree when it's not, but always respect the office of the president. And I've been on boards and I've been on executive teams, and when you always check the box, or if you never say anything, then you're not doing your job. But I do agree with him a lot on policy. On the tax reform, we just talked about what we're seeing out of that. Immigration, we need to fix it. We politicized it long enough, we need to fix it. And agree with what's going on in North Korea. That's historic. So I'm a peace through strength person, so I think some of that is the good things that are happening under this administration. Now, I disagree on tone, temperament, and Twitter. I've said, maybe leave the last sentence off. And most people kind of nod their head when I say that. They get that. So because there's some good things happening, but I disagree a little bit on here. After I launched my campaign early September, we did a soft launch, and 10 minutes after I launched, I put out a press release that said I denounced his comments on Charlottesville. I talked about it in his meeting with Putin. Russia's an adversary. Yes, he should have met with him. Absolutely, that's what you do. It's foreign policy. You go talk to your other nations to try to see where you have commonalities and also discuss some of the issues that are of concern. And he didn't address the whole issue of them in our democracy. That's not a Republican or Democrat issue, that's an American issue. So I've been able to say things that I'm disappointed in that behavior. But I'm glad he fixed it, and he said, came back and fixed what he said. So, but the point is, I'm not shy to talk about where we might have disagreements.